What would you say if I told you that the person who wrote Timber for Pitbull and Worth It for Fifth Harmony had just released what may be one of the best albums of 2018? And what if I also told you it was a country album? My review of Colored by Priscilla Renea is coming up next on Track by Track. Hey everybody, my name is Kyle and this is Track by Track, music reviews, news, and commentary. Thanks for tuning in today, and if this is your first time here, please take a second to click subscribe so that you won't miss future reviews and more. More often than not, when you see a quote-unquote new artist have their breakout moment, chances are they don't see themselves as being all that new. They've probably been working hard to reach that moment for a long time and may even bristle at the suggestion that they're just starting out now that they've finally achieved some small degree of public awareness. After all, just because you or I haven't heard of them doesn't mean that no one has, or that they haven't been paying their dues just beyond the view of the mainstream. I think that's certainly the case for country/R&B crossover artist Priscilla Renea. Technically, she released her debut solo album entitled Jukebox back in 2009, but it ended up going absolutely nowhere on the charts. It's taken her almost 10 years to release her second album, which seems to be on the verge of being the breakout that she must have hoped for the first time around. Things are a little different now for Renea, though. See, she's hardly been idle since her unnoticed debut. In 2010, she co-wrote the song California King Bed, a song that became a minor hit for Rihanna. From there, she went on to write or co-write tracks for artists ranging from Demi Lovato to Chris Brown to Fifth Harmony, as well as Madonna, Mary J. Blige, Mariah Carey, Kelly Clarkson, Sia, Miranda Lambert, and Carrie Underwood. So with all those high-profile credits to her name, it seems a little inappropriate to call Priscilla Renea a new artist. Nevertheless, as a singer-songwriter stepping out under her own name in 2018, I think it's fair to say she's new to anyone that isn't a music industry insider. But what she lacks in mainstream name recognition, she makes up for in her finely honed songcraft. At just 29 years old, Priscilla Renea already has all the chops of a seasoned music veteran, and it's all on vivid display on her surprising new album, Colored. Although she's made a career for herself predominantly in the world of pop music, Renea is getting back to her roots with her return as a recording artist. Her new album is being marketed as a country music release, and while that may be the genre that she grew up on, I think that what she's created with Colored transcends that label in many ways. In fact, the first time I listened to the album, I didn't get the country vibe at all. Not because it wasn't there, but because what I was listening to sounded so fresh and new that I didn't immediately try to put it in any specific genre box. That being said, of the mix of musical flavors at play on Colored, country is often the most dominant. It's certainly front and center on the opening track. Family Tree is one of several autobiographical songs on the album, and if the instrumentation didn't tip you off on her country upbringing, the language certainly will. She refers to her parents as Mama and Pa, and describes their family portrait as Purdy. It's a very somber song in the vein of the Civil Wars, and a powerful way to begin the album. Rest assured, though, the mood does not remain as dark. Renea shifts into a far lighter mode on John Joe, a fun country stomper that tells a story of sibling rivalry as she sought to outwit her brother's attempts to exclude her from his treehouse. If that sounds whimsical, well, it is. It's one of the most whimsical songs I've heard in a long time, but it works well to bring a sense of balance to the album. You'll also hear the balance start to shift musically on this track, as the production and percussion pull in a more R&B direction. On this track, it's a playful tug, but on the next, it's more forceful. Gentle Hands keeps the mood light as Renea sings about her perfect man. Again, the song is country at the core, built around a traditional 12-bar blues melody, but the rhythms are decidedly more urban, and as the track winds down, Renea is practically rapping on the outro. Then on Heavenly, Renea goes all in on a gorgeous old-school soul-styled song. It's a beautiful piano ballad that reminds me of I Only Have Eyes for You. I could definitely have heard this being a huge hit for Mariah Carey back in the late 90s, but it actually works really well with Renea's more organic sounding vocals. When her voice cracks on the big notes, it lends the track a feeling of realness that Carey's perfect voice could never achieve. And speaking of realness, the stripped down acoustic guitar and vocals that make up U-shaped Box leaves Renea with nowhere to hide. She's fully in the spotlight here, and you can clearly hear all of the vulnerability in her voice. It's definitely not one of the showier moments on the album, but it does show more of what this singer is capable of. The song shows up in the middle of the album, and I could see it holding a similar position in her live shows, giving the band a break while she shares a more intimate musical moment with her listeners. And again, she blurs the genre lines. This is a song that could just as easily have been recorded by a country act like Sugarland as it could be by a pop singer like Kelly Clarkson. But on If I Ever Loved You, we get what is probably the most country-flavored track on the album. The song opens with a slide guitar with a subtle organ augmentation in the background. The song is a country waltz with a bit of a gospel flair. There's also a cool guitar solo in the song, but oddly it's really buried in the mix. On track 7, Priscilla Renea shifts the genre gears yet again, this time to reggae. Now, to be fair, country music has a long history of experimenting with tropical sounds and rhythms, ranging from legends like Willie Nelson to contemporary stars like Kenny Chesney. So it's probably not that big a stretch for Renea. What I find more curious, actually, is the racial undertones on the song. In many of the interviews that she's recently given, Priscilla Renea has talked about what it's like to be a black artist in country music and said that many of the songs on her new album address that. I have to be honest and say that I'm hearing a lot less of that topic in her music than her interviews would lead you to believe. And on the song Different Color, I'm getting a bit of a mixed message. Ultimately, this is a very light-hearted song that seems to take a more whimsical, metaphorical approach to race. Renea suggests that when the world makes her blue or the sky outside is gray, her wish is to paint myself a different color. Now, it would be easy to say that I'm reading too much into the song to suggest that there's a racial element to it, and I will admit that the song works just fine as more of an optimistic, put on a happy face kind of jam. But since Renea herself has stressed how she intended race to be a recurring theme on the album, an album called Colored, I think we have to dig a bit deeper on a track called Different Color. And whatever that underlying message is, I'm not sure it's coming through as well as she might hope. Does she wish she could paint herself a color other than black when things get tough? And on the second verse, when she sings, "What's your excuse for the crazy things you do?" and suggests we get ourselves a paintbrush, is she suggesting that those who are white might learn something if they were painted a different color? Now, let me be clear, I'm not criticizing the message, whatever she may have intended it to be. What I'm saying is that I'm not really sure what she's trying to say, and as a result, this track feels like a bit of a stumble to me. Next up on the song Denim, we get what I'd say is the most pop-flavored song on the album. It's a sexy slow burn in which she sings about how her man's arms feel as good as her favorite denim. There's nothing deep here, and none of the metaphors are especially unexpected. To that end, it's a little formulaic, but it's still a strong formula. Listening to this track, I can totally hear how she's been able to build a successful career as a songwriter. I could totally hear the song being performed by someone like Pink, or replace the echoey guitars with pedal steel and it could be a Carrie Underwood hit. Then on Let's Build a House, I think we have the most soulful track on the album. And we're talking about old school soul, like Stax Records soul. I love the dramatic strings on this song, the way the orchestra accents the beats. Kind of feels like It's a Man's World by James Brown, to pick a song most people should know. And yet, Renea manages to retain a hint of country, sneaking in some slide guitar in the background. And speaking of guitar, there's a great guitar solo on this track. All around, it's one of my favorite tracks on the album. Finally, we get to the closing number and what is easily the most politically charged song on the album. On Land of the Free, Priscilla Renea takes on the challenges of being black in America. The opening verse takes on the topic of police shooting unarmed black children, and in the second verse, she compares the high rate of black incarceration to slave labor. As she leads into the chorus, she sings, "If you don't believe it's true, I guess I wrote this song for you. You think I'd say these words because I hate America? No, that's just life for me, living while black in the land of the free." Then, as the song closes, it transitions into a solo electric guitar performance of the national anthem. It's a simple but bold choice, especially considering how much controversy there's been around the anthem over the past couple of years. There's also an obvious comparison to be made to Jimi Hendrix's famous rendition at Woodstock, a performance that itself was a form of protest to the turmoil of the times, which makes me wonder what he would have thought about the symbolism of the anthem today. In any case, between Land of the Free and Different Color, we get the bulk of the album's racial and political commentary, which isn't a lot, I don't think, and I don't think that most listeners would find it overbearing. On the contrary, as I mentioned before, I'm surprised that there's so little commentary on the album based on how it's been a significant topic of conversation in Priscilla Renea's interviews promoting this release. It's also quite possible that the race angle is getting played up a bit more by the media outlets covering the album. After all, there's no denying the fact that black artists are rare in country music. Setting race and genre aside, though, this is just a really good record. There's a variety of musical elements at play on this album that blend together in a way that feels fresh and inventive. Now, on the one hand, it's hard to believe that this artist hasn't broken through with mainstream audiences before, but on the other hand, her success behind the scenes also feels well earned. So whether you call her a new artist or not, hopefully we can all agree that her time in the spotlight is well deserved. And as successful as she's been as a songwriter, I hope that her success as a solo artist goes on to eclipse her early career. This album is easily one of my favorite releases of the year so far, which is why I'm giving Colored by Priscilla Renea an X rating of 8 out of 10. You can call it country, R&B, soul, or even pop, but I say skip the labels and just call it good music. Be sure to check this one out. Once again, my name is Kyle, and this has been Track by Track. If you like this video, please be sure to give it a thumbs up, plus check out some of these other videos below that I think you might also enjoy. And of course, be sure to subscribe, because true music fans always want new releases the day they come out. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.